So, namaskar, all of you. Today we have this year's um, topper rank 3 in Odisha Judicial Service 2022, Ananya Mishra. So, welcome, Ananya. Namaskar, and big congratulations on your grand success.
Thank you, sir, for the congratulations and namaskar to all of you. And yeah,
So, we will have a discussion about the strategy and the books that Ananya had followed and her advice to the young aspirants, those who are planning to give judicial services in the future. So, Ananya, please tell us something about your law journey. Where did you study law, and uh, something about your career in law as a student?
okay, sir. So I did my BA LLB Integrated Law from Hidayatullah National Law University, Raipur, Chhattisgarh. And in my university, I always scored a rank one. So, I like my subjects very well. So, I, if if I talk about how I joined law, then that's sort of a coincidence. I did not plan on doing law, but then after my plus two, I took science in my plus two. But then after that, my father just suggested that there's something like integrated law, so maybe you can go there. So I googled it, and then I got to know about NLUs and CLAT exam and everything. So I attempted that once, but the first attempt I could not get into any NLU because there was no preparation. It was just after my 12th. However, I did see that the legal reasoning part that was very interesting to me. So I thought ki let's author deba maybe Hage Berthara. So I tried one more time, and next time I got into HNLU Raipur. So that's how I got into law. Once I get into the law university, after all my subjects and everything, I realized that I do not want to go for corporate. Corporate did not interest me that much, although there was a lot of encouragement to go for corporate. So I thought maybe I should choose something which like where I can apply the law that I have studied for this 5 long years. So that's why I thought ki let's give it a try for judiciary.
Uh, Considering that your father is a senior administrative officer, so you're not interested for civil services with law as the optional?
Yes, I would not totally disagree that I was not interested or not interested in civil services. However, for the timing, I went for judiciary and simultaneously thought that I should also prepare for something, but then I focused totally on OJs for the time being. Maybe later in future, if at all I feel like going for civil services, I may try, but for now, it's judiciary.
Okay, and during the mock interview also, you told us about the gold medals, that you had won.
Yes, sir.
You can just tell the aspirants about that. But 10 around, you said that you had one out of 30 something.
Yes, I we total had 36 gold medals, 4 for LLM and 32 for BLLB, and out of which I got 10 gold medals in my batch. So it was highest in my batch, and it was majorly for being the rank one holder and also for various subjects which included constitutional law, administrative law, CPC, DPC, Transfer of Property Act, and then there's political science, family law. So yeah, for all of them, I together got 10 gold medals.
Okay, and what were your optionals that you had chosen for Odisha Judicial Service?
Yes, sir. So my optionals were basically jurisprudence and constitutional law, crime, law of crime and torts, and law of contract and other mercantile laws.
Okay, that is really good to hear because there is a general perception here that if you take jurisprudence and constitution, and it is very difficult to get through. So, just for those who are preparing for OJS, so uh, this is rank 3, and even our Lopamudra rank 5, she also has constitution and jurisprudence. Others also would be having, but these two are in the top 5 ranks, at least I'm sure now. So now coming to the stages of preparation. So
Yes,
the
sir.
first thing is like you had integrated kind of preparation for mains and prelims, or you had separate preparations for prelims and mains?
So actually, I started my preparation in December last and January 1st only. Before that, I was simply going through the previous year question papers, to choose what optional I would keep, or how my strategy should be and everything else, because I did not have any other guidance. So it was all on my own. So I did that till December, because notification also was not out till December or something. It came in February. So I started my preparation in January, and I thought ki first let me focus on the prelims only. Prelims clear hele hi, then I would go for mains, because like prelims is always the elimination round, and mains is always like the what you have subjective. I mean, you have to write long answers. So ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ conceptual clarity and ସେଇଟା different thing. But for prelims ଯୋଉଠି ମତେ focus କରିବାର ଥିଲା.
Yeah, please continue.
Yes, sir. So, जो prelims में focus करिया था, because on all the objective questions like sections, को कहाँ कौन elements like crime रो कौन elements and को particular crime रो कौन है अच्छी explanations, orders and all. So, मैं भाभी कि first let me focus on prelims. If at all I get the prelims, तो एमिति भी मैं all the bare act and सब उसको जाई साथी prelims पाएं. So later on मते खाली तारा substantive part उड़ा को भी पर focus करिया दरकार. So first I prepared for prelims. Once the prelims result was out, we got a good 2 months gap in between. And because more panchavarshare law or clarity bhalo thla concept ro, so I thought ki now let's focus on the mains part. And yeah, and that's how it was. It was I mean gote not integrated.
Okay. Total आपको कितने time लगी थी? What was the total time span for preparation for judicial service, specifically judicial service? Because in academics you are quite good, so that thing also would weigh in. But strictly for OJS, what was the time span for which you prepared? And generally, according to your experience, what is the time span that one should have in mind? Like some people say that, oh, can we prepare it in 4 months, 6 months, 1 year?
So personally, as I कहली कि I started from January itself, because my thing ମୋ ପାଇଁ कि ଗୋଟେ bonus point थिला कि ମୋ conceptual clarity थिला. However, ସେମାନେ जो माने maybe ତାଙ୍କର ମାନେ course time रे clear नथिବ concept कि otherwise कि maybe हाँ एमती first time LLB କରିଚନ୍ତି and then they are opting for OJS, then maybe I would suggest कि first go for conceptual clarity, because ultimately prelims हो कि mains हो, you need to have a thorough understanding of everything. Then only tame maybe let's say prelims re tamku gote question na answer emti mona padlani, but then you can relate ki okay, I read it this in this section, this explanation was about that, so maybe in between eta thai pare. So that's how you can, without even like now घुसी की भी तमे conceptual clarity थिले आ किस्ता understanding थिले से हिसाब रे कर दे पारिबो. So तांकर जहार conceptual clarity नाही कि maybe तांको time लागुची grasp करिया को law first time, they should maybe have a like lengthy preparation period, maybe 1 year or more than that, whatever time. It is subjective कि काहाकू कितने time लागिबो. For me it was from January, because more a conceptual clarity थिला, plus I thought कि मु सही optional ने भी जो थे मु basic comfortable. So ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ mine time period was from Jan to September, but for others it may be like different depending upon ତାଙ୍କର କେତେ ability.
Okay. Now coming to a very important part regarding your notes and books that you followed. So there is a perception, especially in Odisha, for Odisha Judicial Service, that if you follow some ready-made notes also, there is a chance that since the questions are not very analytical, which this year was an exception, we can say, not very direct questions. So even if you go through some pre-compiled notes, it would be possible. What was your approach regarding textbooks and notes, and what would you advise the future aspirants?
Yes, sir. So more as a person, I am detail oriented. ମୁଁ ସବୁବେଳେ in depth ପଢିବାକୁ ହିଁ ମତେ ପସନ୍ଦ, ଏମିତି ନାହିଁ କି just ଉପରୁ ଉପରୁ skim କରିଗଲି and this and that happens ଯେତେବେଳେ ମତେ exam ପୂର୍ବରୁ just କିଛି କରିବାର ଅଛି, କୋଉ ଗୋଟେ topic ହେଲା ଯୋଉଟା ମୁଁ ଆଗରୁ ପଢିନି but last minute ମତେ ଦରକାର, so maybe I would go for some short notes or some videos to understand କି କଣ ହଉଛି ସେଠି. But then I would suggest ki go if you have time, and I mean, of course, if you are not very thorough, then you should have some time and you should go to the concept, because as you said, this time the paper was an exception, because I always prefer to go deeper in the subject. Therefore, the paper was, even though it was like I can say kind of a googly for all of us, because it was not direct and analytical, so I could still approach the questions and answer it as much as I could. And some questions I thought maybe I could have done better, but for many questions I thought ki it's good that I had undergone like into deep into the subject. So ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ like in order to be like prepared for every sort of question, I would suggest ki you should go in depth. And if at all at the end you have not covered some topic, but maybe I mean bhabucha that it's a possibility the question would come, then maybe at the end you can take help of videos or short notes. But generally, I would prescribe you go into the subject so that any type of question you can attempt it.
Okay, now let us start with procedural law then.
Okay.
What were the books and your textbooks and reference books which you followed for CPC, CRPC, and evidence?
Yes, sir. So for CPC, generally as everyone follows, CK Takwani I followed. For evidence again, same Patuklal. And for CRPC, RB Kelkar was there. And for CRPC and evidence, I specifically like focused a lot on the Bear Act, because illustrations and certain language thing. I mean, if you just go through CRPC or Evidence Act Bear Act, you'll understand the same from the Bear Act itself. No further commentary is required on the same. Like our evidence, there's this best evidence rule section 91 and 92. There only the illustrations and the sections would suffice. You don't need to go into any commentary. That part is like only Barat. So it's like combination both commentary as well as Barat. But for CPC I needed a book, because I needed to understand, like section 9 says suits of civil nature. I need to know what all cases and how, like what was the exact scope of suits of civil nature. So that's why I needed the commentary.
Okay. Now coming to your optional subjects. So what were the textbooks that you followed for your optional subjects?
Yes, sir. So my optionals were law of crime and law of tort. So for crime, again, it's the same SN Mishra. For IPC, for torts, again, Bangia, RK Bangia. For constitution, I opted for VN Shukla, because I'm myself very comfortable with VN Shukla book, and I was referring it from my college days only. So some people find the language a little bit tricky, but I was comfortable with it. So I went ahead with the same book. Though it's thick, but it was like manageable for me. For jurisprudence, I preferred Henry Paranjape, because all the topics you can get in that book itself, I feel. Maybe a few the topics you may require Google, or maybe conceptual clarity, like the schools and all. So for that, I think Google or anything would suffice, and it depends what kind of material will make your concept clear. For contract and mercantile laws, it was again R.K. Bangia.
Okay. Now
And
coming
maybe
to
contract a bit of like Avtar Singh also, some concepts like which are not elaborate in Bangia, Avtar Singh.
okay. And what about your preparation for the compulsory English paper, especially your translation and retranslation part from English to Odia and Odia to English?
Yes, for now that's one paper which is like I thought some part of it I can manage on my own. Like from Odia to English translation, I thought I can do that. But the retranslation part, I think that was a bit tricky for me, because even though we generally converse in Odia every day, certain words you can't remember at the right moment. In fact, I would confess something like that happened to me during the exam also. While doing the retranslation, I got confused with particular words. So after I took my, that's why I had like kept that portion for the last part, because I knew that's something where I would require more time. So that's why I attempted all other parts first and kept the retranslation part at the end. So yeah, I invested some time for retranslation, that and to practice that. Previous questions were my only thing. Like Of course, I read newspaper and editorials of ODIA newspaper basically to get the grasp of the words, like what words can be used in particular situation. So yeah, for newspapers and previous year questions.
Okay. Now coming to your style of answer writing. So, what were the main ingredients and the structure of your answer? And how did you practice this answer writing, especially for judicial service? And was it similar to what you were writing in the institutional level in your university, or did you make any changes for OJs?
No, sir. Actually, in my case, I did not have any writing practice before exam because I focused on having my concepts clear. I thought कि once my concepts are clear, whatever questions come in that moment, organically, whatever comes to my mind, I will write that down. So that I did not practice because somewhere back in my mind, I had this thought कि even in college also there were 3 hour papers in the semester exams and I could attend them and scored a decent marks or maybe good marks in them also. So I relied on that experience of mine, and I did not practice writing per se, but I just like brainstorm like if this question comes, what I'm going to write in it. So that's how mentally prepared for it, but no practice per se.
Okay. What was your style of writing? Like you divided your answer into certain sections, especially in constitution and jurisprudence. Did you make use of diagrams, etc., legal maxims, recent case laws, and what? Excuse me. What were your sources, especially for this dynamic part, like recent happenings and recent case laws, etc.?
Yes, sir. So, for the constitution and juris part, I would say ki the answer was, of course, there were subheadings because juris, it happens most of the times when you're writing about those schools for particular author or let's say for a particular jurist like Austin and his analytical school, you have to divide that. Austin's imperialistic school of law, Austin's division of law, and everything. So that like involves subheadings. So that's how I proceeded with juris. Subheadings were compulsory for me. And for constitutional law, it all depended upon the question. Like if they ask me about basic structure, of course, I'm going to write how it started, what was the main Keshwanand Bharti case, and what was the basic structure, what all have been included, and what more. I mean, I would write it as not exhaustible. It's still people are, I mean, judges are adding on to what basic structure would consist of. So it's like that. And if in case the question asks me like what are the recent developments, so for that I what I did is I went through certain, like YouTube was my help at the time for legal development. Of course, I was reading newspapers, but to consolidate the matter, I thought at the end I would take help of any YouTube, like there are videos which are like current legal developments of like 6 months or quarterly like that. So I just went through them once or twice, and I mean I just tried to like what remember, like okay, maybe not all the cases of course would be essential, but what may be the major constitutional judgment or a 5 judge constitutional bench decision on a particular topic, and if it is relevant to my topics for which is exam, then I would just jot it down. That's how I prepared for the legal development part. It was based on internet only.
Okay. And now coming to your interview. So basically, what was your attire during the interview, and how was the before getting into the interview room, and once you went in, what was the atmosphere like? What was your opinion? Like it was stressful, and obviously the questions that they asked you.
Yes, sir. So actually, mine was like a funny thing happened over there because I was not aware. I mean, it was nowhere written that you have to wear black and white only, and all the other candidates they were having black and white. I mean, they were either wearing girls for saris or salwar kameez, and then the black coat was there, and boys of course were in all black and white. But I was wearing actually a salwar kameez, and that too in blue black color, and it was a Sambalpuri one. I thought it's formal, so let me just wear this one. When I entered there, I saw so many people wearing black and white, and I got so confused. But I asked someone, and she was like, "No, no, no, it's not compulsory. It's okay. Whatever you wear, it's fine." So then I like, okay, fine. So actually for dressing part, I don't think mine was like exactly like anyone else's. Everyone else were like uniform black and white, but mine was totally different. So I was very much visible. I mean, conspicuous I was. So that's how it was. But then I mean, initially there was little nervousness. Ki this is my first time an interview, so I was nervous. But there were many people for whom, I think maximum people for whom it was the second time interview. In my slot, whatever people were there, almost all of them were there approaching the Viva for the second time. So they were kind of chill about it, I can say. So the fear that was there after we were sitting in the waiting room, after like the shuffling happened and we were waiting in the waiting room, there people started conversing and they said ki Viva is the most unpredictable part of this entire journey, and you can never be prepared for the Viva. They can just ask anything and everything under the sun. So there's nothing to worry about it. So after like interacting with the fellow candidates and sitting there, after like I waited I guess for 2 hours or something for my turn. So after waiting for that much time, I was like, okay, fine, whatever, let the Viva happen and let me get done with it, because my fear was gone by that time after waiting for so long. And after interacting with so many people, I was like kind of calm. They're like, okay, fine, whatever. Anyway, everyone is saying it's unpredictable, so let it be, let's face it, whatever it is. So that's how it was. And after I went inside the room, it was like, it was okay, I will say. It was not very good, it was not very bad. There were three members on the panel, and one of them was, I think, the OPC chairman or someone. I think yes, it was OPC chairman. There was another lady member, and there was this present judge of the High Court. I don't remember his name now, but yeah, he was there. So first, the chairman, sir, he started with basic GK questions. So it was like he asked me, well, what's your original place? And then he asked me certain questions regarding that. Fortunately, I had prepared for few of them, so I answered as much as I could. But many of them were like, I didn't know, because um it's like GK part plus very very static GK. So I thought, I mean, I did not prepare for it much. So I thought ki let it be. I told them that I do not know, forgive me. So that's how it went. And then he passed the baton to the judge, it's honorable judge. So then he asked me about all the legal questions. So I tried my best answering all of them. Or let's say most of them I answered. Some of them I was totally not aware. So I told them that I was not aware. Forgive me for that. So that's how it went. And then the lady member, she was there. She asked me about my hobby and all. Like I had written journaling is my hobby. So she asked me why journaling, and also I explained her, and I think she was satisfied with the answer. So I would say it was not very great, but it was not bad also. It was a mix of the same. And after that was done, I came out of the room. I was like, fine, finally done with my Viva. That's how I felt.
Okay, if you remember, can you just tell us the some of the questions which you are asked, if you remember?
Yes, so it was like what as much as I can remember, it was first. I mean, he started with evidence. No, he started with CPC. He asked me questions like, "What is substituted service of summons?" I mean, he simply asked, "What is substituted service?" So I told in order five and summons deal to defendant and all. Then he asked me the difference between set off and counterclaim, and then in evidence he asked me that is what this particular section 165 or 167 something is about. And then um for I think there was one concept, because I had constitution as my optional. So I think one of them asked me what is about panchayati raj institution and all. So I was able to answer majority of them, but other questions I do not remember now. But yeah, as much as remember, I could answer most of them, but not all of them.
And what was the medium of the interview? Was it completely English or it was bilingual, Odia and English?
So for me, it was completely English. We just conversing in English only.
Okay, and what was the duration? Like 20 minutes or around that, or more or less?
Before me, actually, I think they interviewed for around 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. But after, because there were many people, including me, so they reduced the time duration. So before me, there's another candidate. For her, it was 15 minutes. For me, also, it was 15 minutes.
Okay, fine. Now, and this was your first attempt
Yes, sir.
in this. Okay,
Yes, sir.
fine. So, those who are preparing for judicial services, what would you advise them? How to go about it. What are the things they should keep in mind? What are the things they should do, and what are the things they should avoid?
Yes, sir. So, for me, it was like totally up to me as to, because I did not have any other guidance or anything. So, what I did, I analyzed the previous year questions. For me, for prelims also, mains also, everything it was based on previous year questions. I went through the questions and I saw whatever papers were like easier for me, or the papers which I already studied during my college. So, I was kind of adapt to it. So, I chose them. So I would suggest that choose those optionals only with which you are comfortable, and not because everyone else is taking this or preferring this, or people say that these are mark fetching, go for it. Don't do that. As you can see in my case also, my optionals are totally different from others because I was comfortable with those subjects. So I chose them. So it should be up to you and your level of comfortness, and you should choose optionals based on that only. For mains, I would say go for conceptual clarity, because as we saw, this year's papers was very analytical and it was actually exceptional to other last year papers. Even prelims question was a bit tougher than last year's. So for that, you should go for conceptual clarity. That would be my advice. Maybe if you're not thorough, spend more time with the concepts, the subjects, get to understand them, and then maybe at the end you can revise it. But if you are conceptually clear, then I don't think even revision would take more time. So first focus on the conceptual clarity part, and everything else will fall into place later on.
Okay. So, you have completed your post graduation also, or you have not done your LLM?
No, sir, I have not done my LLM. I just graduated last year, and after that, we have focused on getting like judiciary, getting the judiciary first.
Okay, fine. So, uh, you told what is to be done, that is, and the other side, like, what are the things that candidates or aspirants should avoid according to you, in your experience, to ensure that they get through in the first attempt itself?
Yes, sir. For that, I would suggest that maybe depending upon your capability, you should focus on the, I mean, read the subjects as per your capability. It's not that you should not be like, okay, this person can prepare in this much time, so I should also delay it till that time, and the end I can do it. That is not the thing. It depends upon your capability. If you can grasp the subjects, let's say in 4 hours, some other person takes 14 hours, so they should prepare differently. For me, I was like, I started like very late in January, but before that, I mean, I because I had some conceptual clarity before that, and even as I said, before the mains exam, there were like 2 months gap. So even though I could not study every day, but I tried studying at least something every day. Like if not for, let's say, 10 hours or 8 hours, but at least for 2 hours, I did study. And if I did not feel like studying, I invested my time in translation, retranslation, and then going into the essay questions. Like I brainstormed, like what can I write for the essay question? I did not practice per se, but I brainstormed. So if you're not feeling like reading, you have other subjects also where you can utilize your time and maybe go through previous year question to see what kind of analytical questions they're asking, or if there's a chance that this question may come. So you should do that instead of like delaying it for the last movement. And if you have made notes, then that's well and fine. If you don't have, like you have not made notes, then that's also good, because there are notes available in the market also. what you should do is maybe get them earlier and then go through them to see if you're comfortable. If not, maybe you should go in depth into the subject. For me, it was always in depth. So I did not have any notes or other stuff. I did not make notes, but I went through the books and that took some time. So it's all about the time. And even if you're not feeling like reading like for continuously, you should at least invest some time in it and should not like keep it till the very end. And maybe for topics which you cannot understand, do not leave it. Rather go for something like online notes or let's say some YouTube videos, because there are plenty in number, and so you can go through them if you're not feeling like reading or if you're not understanding a particular subject. So that's what I would suggest, that invest your time according to your capability. Don't rely or like look at others and choose them. That's what I would suggest.
And this, of course, you told that this is your first attempt, and you had not, you got your rank with self study only. You had not taken any institutional coaching for OJS.
No, sir, no coaching. Just one mock interview from your classes and one mock interview for that, and now no other coaching or anything.
Okay, so that would be the end of the interview. We all wish you, with the blessings of Lord Jagannath, that you have a great and successful career as a judicial officer, and best wishes for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank
Namaskar.
you, sir. Namaskar, sir.